Hi, welcome again, Inkaris. I am alone at the 6 o'clock meeting, and this is Friday, the 6th of February, 2026. And I, again, am not going to do a Bible study, but I'm going to look at a few Greek words. I'm not going to ramble on about nothing. I have not prepared this. I have just been looking at the Char family. Actually, technically, it's the Ka family, but in English we spell it CHA. But the C is silent. You see, the words there are chiaro, cara, charis, charizomai, and charisma. Each and every one of them are spelt with a H. Chairo, Chara, Charis, Charisma. And that's the one we all know, charisma. It's not pronounced charisma, it's charisma. The H is silent in these. And they are all related words. They're spelt in English the same because in the Greek they have the same beginnings. It's the XA and mostly the XAP or XAIP in Greek, which is the CHAR or CHIAR, say AIR in Cario. So, what's the relationship between them in the Greek and in the English? I'm going to give you that in the uh, simple form firstly. I'll give you a simple explanation of each one. And let's start with, let's start at the top. In the order of Strong's listings, actually, instead. And excuse my pronunciation if you speak Greek and you can see that my pronunciation's not good. Kairo is to be cheerful, calmly happy, rejoice, and a greeting. It's often that's Strong's meaning, and Thayer's meaning is that it's to rejoice, to be glad, to thrive, and to hail. And hail there means a greeting. So Charo, Charo has in the Greek become in what is the modern Italian, ciao. You can see the closeness, Charo, ciao. And it's a greeting or a salutation, goodbye. And Shara, I'm pronouncing the H here, it should be Kara. The next word is cheerfulness, calm, delight, gladness, joy. Joy, gladness being the opposite of sorrow, and cause of joy. Something that causes you to be joyful. So this is now a word that is still reflecting the same first word, the cheerfulness side of it, but this is the source of the joy. Uh, Child, if you're a parent, might be a source of your joy. And you might say, they're the joy of my life. That's the way this word comes across. Charis. It's the word that I talk about an awful lot, and this is the word that has brought me into looking at these other words to see how the formation of those words relate. It means, and this is Strong's, graciousness, divine influence on the heart and life, grace and thankfulness. And in Thayer's, the short version is that which affords joy, charm, God's merciful kindness turning souls to Christ. And we know my explanation of Thayer's definition, the second definition, part A. Here, why not? I'll go over it. The merciful kindness by which God, exerting his holy influence upon souls, turns them to Christ, keeps, strengthens, increases them in Christian faith, knowledge, affection, and kindles them to the exercise of the Christian virtues, is what it's saying here as well. That which affords joy, charm, God's merciful kindness turning souls to Christ, reflecting that particular part. So, this is a key word amongst all the other key words. And what are we seeing coming out here? This is the word for grace, by the way. Remember this. The key thing coming out in each and every one of these is cheerfulness, joyfulness. And the next, we all know charisma. It's a wonderful person, an appealing person. Well, that's what it is in our minds. A person that exudes something attractive about them, and it doesn't have to be a nice thing, because we say that people like Adolf Hitler had charisma, and he would be a harsh speaker. You know, he would be saying "Sieg Heil" or whatever he would say, but it would be a harshness coming across, but an impressive spirit coming out, and we would call that impressive spirit coming out of a person charisma. That's the common understanding of it in the modern English. But the Greek word means a gift of grace, back to charis, so it's an addition, charisma, adding to charis, spiritual endowment. Now, the spiritual endowment there is as in the gifts of grace, the gifts of the Spirit, like prophecy or a gift of interpretation of tongues, or a gift of tongues, or a gift of knowledge, or the like. So, gifts of the Spirit. So, God's Spirit inside coming out, not in a impressive speaker type way, but coming out as in God's actual gifts. A word of wisdom from God, or a prophecy from God, or etc. And Thayer, the short version we're still in here, said, free gift, favor received without merit, divine grace gift. Okay, so we often translate charis, grace, as a gift without merit and unmerited favor. And many people use a backronym for grace, which is God's riches at Christ's expense, GRACE. God giving us good things due to the sacrifice Jesus made. There's a lot in that. I'm not going into that at the moment. I'm just looking at 5 words, and this is the quick version before I actually look at any of them in depth. So, the main meaning of charisma is a free gift, a favor received from, that we are receiving without merit, so unmerited favor, and divine grace. So charisma means grace even more than most people's interpretation of grace, especially the unmerited favor side of things. That's important because we're going to see a difference between charisma and charis as well. And firstly, knowing that now, does that make you look at the word charisma differently? You don't think of a charismatic person the same way now because you know what charisma actually means is something actually different to what we use it for. And charizomai, I hope I'm pronouncing that well. It means to show grace, favor, forgive, give freely, bestow, and that's Strong's. And Thea said, bestow favor freely, pardon as an act of grace. So this is the action of the pardon itself. This is the word that you would use for the sacrifice of Jesus. This is the action and showing that part of grace, not the whole part of grace, because we know grace is far much more than that, because we know grace is charis. So we don't use the word grace there. We often say gracious. So charizomai is gracious or graciousness. People doing a act of forgiveness or the like. So let's look at these words a little bit more in depth. I started marking these, and that's why I thought I'd talk about them now. I haven't finished marking them. Cario, cariro, I suppose. To be cheerful, i.e., calmly happy or well off, impersonally, especially as salutation, in other words, yeah, ciao. Be well, farewell, be glad, Godspeed, a greeting, hail, joy, or joyful, you know. So that's the word when you say either a good greeting to a person or a good departure. You know, Godspeed was a departure. Farewell, you know, farewell on the road. Uh, it was a welfare type farewell. We have reversed farewell to make welfare, taking care of someone. So have a fair trip, like a fair voyage, a peaceful voyage. Well, is where I can't explain it very well, but that's the kind of thing that farewell came from. And Godspeed. God take you on your journey and speed you through the journey with by overcoming all the things that might get in the way, and therefore speed is a essence to the journey, as it were. So Godspeed was a salutation meaning salute, goodbye, rather than a greeting. And hail, we've seen that as in hail Caesar or hail Hitler through the Second World War. Hail is a greeting. Anyway, so the first word is full of joyful greetings. Thea, I marked out two parts here because a lot of it, Thea talks about two-person singular, present, middle, or passive, imperfect, three-person singular, two-person singular, imperfect, indicative, middle, and says a lot of things that don't really gel or are not easy to understand. And they're not just simple sentences, but they are explaining each of the different words. Because it's got the Greek written word when it says two-person singular, and then it's got the middle or passive, and then it's got another word written in Greek, but it's not saying what that word is. And it's saying that's imperfect person singular. And then it's got a word written in Greek again, and it says that this is from Acts 11:23 TDF, whatever that means. A lot of stuff that makes little sense. Of course, if you actually go and study this, you'll see, oh, hang on, this is the Greek word in that sentence of the Bible. But again, for the sake of this, they're not things that make a great sense. So I'm just highlighting the ones that do. Okay. Excuse me. So Thayer on that word, Chairo, Cairo, Caro, I don't know how to pronounce it, said to rejoice, be glad, of those who are moved to gladness by a reversal of their sorrow, or by joyful tidings, or by receipt of some good. So the concept there is something good changing them from sorrow to gladness. Or even if there's no sorrow there, it is receiving something good that's moving you. And specifically in Matthew 2:18 is another example where the same word there means of those who are glad because of God's goodwill toward them. Interesting point there. God's goodwill toward them. God wants good things for us. And the words the Bible was written in say exactly these things. We just using the English words which are insufficient and don't know. Let's look at Kara. Strong's said gladness, greatly or exceeding, be exceeding, joyful or joyfully. So gladness and great or exceeding, excessive, especially in the area of joyful or joyful, joy or pleasure. So again, this is a word of gladness and joy. They're all related to that in some way. Remember, we're going to tie this back to grace in the end, which is the word charis is translated into. Ephesians 2:8. For by grace you are saved through faith, and this is not of yourselves, it is the gift of God. I think it's that, it's you not of yourselves. To change grace to its original Greek word, it's by charis you are saved through faith, and that is not of yourselves, it is the gift of God. So, Thea on Kara said, the gladness experienced in some auspicious event, good event, or on account of the favor of God toward one, meaning a person. So God showing favor towards you, and that doesn't mean one as in, oh, God shows favor to only one person, but it's like the kings and queens would say, one is quite happy for one's gift when somebody presented something to them, and they would refer to themselves as one. The same thing. On account of the favor of God towards yourself. Okay, so it's gladness because God has blessed you, and whether God has changed your circumstances or not, that's not necessarily the blessing that is here, because we'll see, and as we know, if you've been looking at my other messages, charis is God changing us to have the blessings of God within our lives from within. We have love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, kindness, and they're all out of order, and self-control in our life. And if God is putting those things in our life and being saved is the action of that happening, because that's what charis is, we'll get there hopefully in time, then that makes this obvious that chara, a related word, is the gladness experienced in some auspicious event or on account of the favor of God towards us. Isaiah 51:11, the word used in that verse means joy because of the entrance of the gospel into one's soul. The entrance of the good news into your heart. The Hebrew world considered, when this was written, that the heart was the seat of the soul and the seat of the spirit. So heart, soul, and spirit were all here. The mind would be different, but for it to be joy because of the entrance of the gospel, God's good word, into your soul, your spirit. And that's also relating to Acts 8:8. And one I didn't highlight was he also says joy in the reception of the truth and joy in the Lord. So Thea was highlighting chara as God doing things in your life, and those are wonderful things, and you have great joy because of that change in your life, how you're no longer desiring sin and you're desiring the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, so much more. And I'm referring to those because those are the gifts of the Spirit in Galatians 5:22 and 23, if you haven't been following along and you're not sure what I'm talking about. Now, I'm going to skip charis here and get back to it because that's the one that ties them up, remember? And I'm going to skip charisma as well. Now, charizomai is, in Strong's definition, from charis. So this one comes out of charis. And this is a word that's based on charis. And it means to grant as a favor, to do something nice for someone, basically. Gratuitously, in kindness, which can include a pardon or a rescue, a deliverance, forgiveness, to freely give or to grant. This is a word that implies more so what we see as unmerited favor. Yet this is the word that comes from charis. This is not charis. And we often say, oh, charis is unmerited favor. Charis translated into grace, and grace is unmerited favor. No, grace is more than that. Grace is something else. Because if we were to just talk about unmerited favor, this covers it even more. I haven't highlighted this one yet, so I'm not sure where I'm going. Thea's full description: to do something pleasant or agreeable, to do a favor, to show yourself as gracious, kind, or benevolent. Again, they're all the kinds of things of being kind, the act of kindness, unmerited favor, what Jesus did in removing sin on the cross. That gift we didn't deserve. This is the word for it, not charis. And in because they it's referring to all the verses with them rather than Strong, who's just a dictionary defining it. Thayer is saying where debt is referred to forgive, and that's a reference relating to Luke 7:42. So that will be a parable or something that Jesus told, and someone forgave a debt in that parable. So the word used in that forgiveness was evidently, I was about to say would have been, but because I haven't got it in front of me right now, charizomai. Charisma we'll go to next. Going backwards this time. From charizomai. So charisma is one step later in the process again. Charis is the entire process from beginning to end. The revelation that Jesus is God, the understanding that we need to repent and accept his sacrifice for our sin and turn from that sin, which is the beginning of repentance, and turn towards that love, joy, peace, patience, etc., the fruits of the Spirit. And why that? Because Jesus said, we know them by their fruit. Can a good tree bear bad fruit? Can a bad tree bear good fruit? No. The goodness of God you see in them through that love, joy, peace, patience, the fruits of the Spirit. So, charisma, the person that is, yes, the person that is, well, whatever they say, whatever they do, they're a kind of person I want to hang around because they've got charisma. Sure. But are we saying that we see a godlike joy, attraction coming out of them? Yes, because charisma literally means from charizomai, a divine gratuity, God giving to us. So it's from God giving to us the deliverance from danger or passion, especially a spiritual endowment. In other words, by having God in you, you then have that power of, well, so let's not use power. You then have that gift of being able to speak in tongues, being able to interpret tongues, being able to prophesy, being able to have a gift of wisdom or knowledge or whatever they are. I don't even recall all the gifts. Being able to have the gift of healing, etc. Those things come through charizomai, and that is what charisma is. Those gifts coming out. That's what charisma is. Interesting knowing that charisma, the actual Greek word, means something different to what we think of it as today, but what we think of it today is somewhat related, especially a spiritual endowment coming out. And he says, a miraculous faculty, free gift. So the gifts of God, which are free, causing miraculous things to come out of you. That's charisma. And these come from charis, because Charizomai produces charisma, and charizomai, so charisma comes from charizomai, and charizomai comes from charis. And charis comes from chario, graciousness, gratifying, the good things, the cheerfulness, and the one that was also used as a greeting, etc. So to rejoice, be glad of those who are moved to gladness by a reversal of their sorrow, or by joyful tidings, or by receipt of some good. So going from sorrow to gladness is the inspiration of the word charis, because that's where it's developed from chario. Graciousness as gratifying, so that's explaining chario. Of manner or act, so it is an action of graciousness. Abstract or concrete, these are the kinds of meanings of words. So it's, yeah, in other words, a literal or figurative word, which means it could be an actually this or descriptively this. Yeah, so that's what literal and figurative mean. But so that means these are all just talking about the word, not explaining the word, just the characters of how it could be used as an abstract way or a literal way. But then he says, especially the divine influence upon the heart and its reflection in the life. I know that one well. I quote it often. Including gratitude, because that's the main part of Strong's meaning. The divine influence upon the heart, God moving on your heart, so much so that it can be reflected in your life. What's happening on your heart can be seen in your life. The love, joy, peace, patience coming out of you to make it evident that you've walked away from hate and anger and sadness and everything else. And we can see a person change from those sinful things of anger, etc., to those godly things of love, etc. And they are going from there to there. And that is charis. Thayer defines charis with, I think, possibly up to 5 definitions for it, because it is translated into a slightly different word, maybe 5 times in the Bible. Might only be 3 or 4, I don't know, I don't recall. But the second way, the first way is translated as unmerited favor. This second way it is translated, and this is really important, unmerited favor is just part of this act. Thayer's translation of grace from charis to A is the merciful kindness, and mercy is letting somebody off. Kindness is goodness. So unmerited, when it's not deserved, favor is merciful kindness, same thing. So unmerited favor is wrapped up in that second and third word, considering the first is the. The merciful kindness by which God, exerting his holy influence upon souls, turns them to Christ, keeps, strengthens, increases them in Christian faith. Now, that's not my believing for something to happen. That's not that kind of faith. It's the Christian faith, as in, you would say a person might practice the Buddhist faith, or a person might practice, his faith is a Jehovah's Witness. It doesn't mean believing for something. Faith in that particular word means set of beliefs. Okay, so God is turning you to Christ, in other words, making you even more Christian, and he keeps, strengthens, makes it more, increases, makes it more, the Christian faith. Firstly, your belief in the Christian ways is growing stronger. Your belief in God is growing stronger. Your knowledge is growing stronger because it increases in Christian faith, knowledge, affection, and kindles them to the exercise of the Christian virtues. So your belief in God is growing stronger. Your knowledge of God and the Bible, etc., is going stronger because you're reading the Bible more. And here it is, strengthening you in your spirit as well. God is moving your spirit in such a way that you are learning more about God without even opening the Bible, by maybe seeing things around you and God saying something to you, not audibly necessarily. Some very rare cases it might be audible for some people, but generally it's not. It's a matter of you'll be moved to think, oh, well, that's from God, or no, they might be talking about God, but that's not from God, or oh, God wants me to do this, or whatever it might be. You are knowing more about God and godly things from an action of charis. It has many actions. It increases your faith, knowledge, and affection, affection for God, affection for your fellow man. So charis is taking you from the unaffectionate hate of sin and bringing you the affectionate love of God, not bringing that to you as much as it is changing you into that. You are becoming the love in your environment because you are being changed by charis. And I'm way over time again. Sorry. I'll wrap this up. I should keep a clock in front of me. And the whole point here is that each and every one of these words is talking about good blessings in one way or another. Grace is the goodness of God coming to you. Grace is what you are saved by. We are saved by grace through faith. If you're not getting the goodness of God, you haven't got God. If you're not walking at least towards the goodness of God, walking away from sin and towards the goodness of God, if God and good things are not getting better in your life, then we have a question about whether you've actually made a real commitment to God or not. And that's the whole point. How do we know a Christian? By the charis in their life. Okay, I'm way over time. Bless you, govern well in charis.